I think this is where people get skewed, right? They want the label, they want the big label, and they want the big advance, but they also want to like keep their masters, and they also want to like do it all on their own. Trade-offs are equal between both. Like you can go with the big label, you can get the advance, and you can get dripped into their system and still go nowhere because you didn't actually leverage anything, right? And the leverage comes in where you get into the studio, you meet the people, you make the records, you shake hands, you might have an opportunity there that you would have never been open to, or that door would have never been open to you doing it on your own. The Radium Podcast, episode 92. I almost said 82, bro. That's funny. I can't believe we're almost at 100 episodes. And we've saved 92 for a friend of mine. And actually, interesting thing about this podcast is that this next guest that we got on, he came through Radium probably 3 years ago.
3 years ago, yeah. Full circle.
3 years ago. Had my guy Max Margot from France.
From France.
He flew in and his arms were tired.
Yep.
Real tired arms.
I flew in just for this podcast.
Yeah. 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
He's just been waiting. He said, when you get to 92, bro, I want on.
I've just been preparing for this moment my whole life.
But I think it's a really interesting thing because people talk about this all the time in the industry, right? They say, man, you got to be careful, like who's your intern, who you work with, who works under you, your assistant engineer, the co-producer, the kid that's making the beats and doing his thing, and you start talking down to him, being rude to him because one day he could be your boss.
That's so true.
And you're not my boss, motherfucker, but let's be real here. But like, let's talk about that concept because it's really cool because, you know, Max actually interned for Radium.
Yep.
Like what? Almost 3 years ago, yeah.
For like, a year and a half, almost.
So I think like it's a really interesting case. Now you're doing your own thing, you know, which congrats.
Thank you.
You're making really dope shit. I think it's you got your own lane. You know, what kind of style music do you make really? Like what do you call that shit?
I would like categorize myself into just electronic music.
Yeah.
I don't want to put trap or dubstep or pop because I work on all of these things and I love it. And I think that's part of like the brand is to be able to expand and just, you know, grab a wider audience and everything I do is hopefully gonna have that Esper sound anyway.
Right.
So I feel like you can just really go through different genres. So yeah, electronic music, bass music.
Okay. So, you know, your producer name, and maybe one day we'll hear you like singing or rapping on the track, right?
Never. I actually try. It's not possible. But yeah, my producer name or artist name is Esper, and like Bradley was saying, came out here 3 years ago to asking for an internship. I vacuumed and destroyed Bradley's cable on the first day. Remember that? Right. And I was like, that's it. I'm fired. And he didn't fire me. He kept me on for like a year. Funny. And that's definitely the way to go. That's like everyone's saying, just get an internship, go get the grind, go learn from what it is. Because I also went to school, but it was completely different types of information that you get in school compared to an internship out here with someone that does that every day, all day long.
The most interesting part about this whole thing, though, for me, is that the internship is one of the key things in the music industry. And I think it always will be. And I think that it's being overlooked a lot lately, right? Like it's, people think like, oh no, I'm just going to sit in my room. I'm going to make beats all day. And then I'm just going to blow up, bro. I'm going to like get all these placements and then I'm going to be huge and famous and I'm going to go global and be on the billboards, right? I mean, I always challenge those people with like, who do you know? Name one producer that stayed in the bedroom making beats, got a bunch of placements, became rich and famous.
Yep.
Nobody. I couldn't even, like, even the producers that started in their room and got placements, like Murda Beats, for example. He's not rich. Like, what do you think is rich? Making a couple $1 million a year and then hoping to hold on to it? Like, let's be fucking real here. And I think people need to cut the shit in the music industry where it's like everybody's like rich and they're all just balling out and like, yo, man, if you just make beats and get placements, you're just going to be lit, right? And I really think like a huge part of this industry is growing through the industry, right?
Absolutely.
It's finding your place. It's like music sometimes for a lot of artists, it doesn't end with music. It may begin with music. It may begin with a love for making cool shit, right? And like, I feel like you're one of those kids that like, you just like making cool shit. Right?
That's true.
Like you get in the studio and you like to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big part of that I think that the industry is, it's starting to like disconnect there, right? Which it's weird because, okay, yeah, COVID, all that stuff. But now I'm seeing it come back together. Like people are in writing sessions together. They want to learn. They want to be in the room with great producers, be in the room with great songwriters. What's been going on for you as far as like songwriters and like connecting with people? And like, how has that really taken your music and your production, making beats, bro, into actual like, oh my God, I'm making songs and records now.
Record. Well, it's for me. It was during quarantine was the first time that I finally had all day long to make music.
Yeah.
That was huge. Like no
So
more
many
radio
people.
media.
Yeah.
No more
It's like,
school.
fuck you guys, I'm out.
Exactly. It was just like for the first time, like really having the artist lifestyle and being able to apply that mindset of like, yeah, you got to grind every day and do this every day.
Make a track, work on the
Exactly.
track,
So
work
that
on the
was a
kick drum for
big
3
thing.
hours.
And then I worked with vocalists on, well, I mean, obviously Zoom sessions, stuff like this, or, I send a track, a demo, and then the vocalist is going to record at home and send you a vocal back. So all of that works. I think it was a great beginning to that whole process to work with vocalists because I didn't really know what I was looking for, what I wanted out of a vocalist.
Right, you
But
were
then
just like,
after
what are
those
you going to
sessions-
do?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But after those sessions, seeing like how a vocalist think and what they would send back on demos, then like maybe like a month ago, I started like doing sessions again with a singer, with other producers, get a vibe. Not necessarily always on the computer, but more, standing out, having a drink and get a real theme, a real vibes. Like, what do we want to talk about? It was the emotion, and everyone's
what's
kind of
this song
singing
about?
around. Yeah, exactly. And it's just way more. It's way easier to portray the feeling and the emotion through the song, like in my opinion, than rather just send a demo and get the vocalist back. So yeah, but I didn't mind doing Zoom sessions, but it's not the same as in person. You go in a studio, you take the day, you go get food together after. It's a whole process. For
Yeah,
sure.
totally different game. I mean, when did you start working with vocalists on your tracks? You know what I mean?
First one was Courtney. When quarantine started.
Okay.
Back in March 2020.
Right. So before that, you were doing like instrumental stuff.
Instrumental stuff, or like everyone else, using splice vocals or anything.
Right,
but-
like chops and vocal chops.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. And then, I mean, I've tried to get vocalists or rappers when I was in first years of my school. You get the homies of your class on a song and all that. And then you do it and you're like, whoa, that's so sick.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't. But at first, like, you got to go through it. You got to try everything and you got to go wrong to realize that, yeah, this was wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, from my perspective, talking to someone like where I'm like, dude, I remember being at that spot. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a funny thing because you can't really remember it until like you have someone talking about it in front of you.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like reiterating like, oh yeah, I would try to get people on the tracks and stuff. And for me, like that's years ago, right?
Yeah, for you,
that's like a decade ago. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's so long ago.
but there's something like there that I think is like really important for people to understand. And you said it. It's like you have to do it and you have to like figure out, oh, that's dope. And you think it's dope up front.
Yeah.
And there's so many artists and producers out there right now that are like, man, what I'm doing is so dope because they have no reference point.
Exactly.
Right?
They don't know what they're going for.
They don't know what they're going for. They think like, oh, I'm finally hearing someone on my track. And this is crazy because I made this track. And I remember that experience where it was like, I made this track and then someone like thought it was so dope that they wanted to rap on it or they wanted to sing on it or write a song on it, And looking back, like that's a magical moment. And I think it's important to keep that even when you've been doing it for 20 years,
Absolutely. And it's also really important to not go in a deep depression when you spend 2 weeks making a track and you show it to someone and he's like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, whatever. I used to be like, oh my God, like I'm never going to make it. I was just spend 2 weeks on this track and he just destroyed it. But because people are just at a higher level. And when you're on a higher level, you just know better.
Right.
But that's okay. Just take that as a learning opportunity. Be like, okay, like just back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Start another song. it's like math exercises. Like you don't keep all the exercises and the practice you did. You just know math now.
Yeah.
It's the same with music. Like just be okay to making a bunch of tracks without releasing them. That's what I tell my friends that are like still in school or anything. It's like, dude, it's okay. Just make a bunch of tracks and then send it to me. I'll destroy them.
Yeah.
And then you'll make new ones. That'll be better. And
Facts.
That's okay. Like it's never personal.
So how many tracks do you make before you like get to one that you're like, hell yeah?
Well, now luckily I feel like I like my music way more. Like every time I make a track, I was like, well, yeah, that's super sick.
That's sick. Yeah.
But that's like, the stages of like learning how to make choices and learning how to be confident in the choices you make. It's like, that kick is weird, but it's cool and I like it and I'm gonna make something cool out of it. Whereas before it was like, that kick is weird. Would Skrillex use that? No, then I would just delete it. Which is like, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, it's like every kid like that I went to audio school with.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
Like would
blah 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 do that?
Yeah, would Kanye do that? Because
Yeah.
that's really like.
But Kanye would do that. That's how he became Kanye.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, experimenting
just
with
went
new
crazy.
sounds and cool ass like sounds. Yeah. So
So I'm really interested. Mainly, you know, like one thing I like think that you're doing really good and you're crushing. Obviously, like you got great music and your sonics are great. You learned from some great people, right? You know,
Bradley.
Yeah, you know, had to make a self plug there, but
Nice move.
but you know, like the sonics are intense, and you know, I love you to just talk about like how important that is for like modern music.
True.
Like not just like, oh, I wrote this great arrangement and you know, check out all my chord progressions and stuff.
True.
But like how much has that played into some of the successes that you've gotten to being in LA and connections and stuff, like playing your records and getting into sessions?
I mean, it was everything. It was everything because, you know, if you like the way I saw it, it was like, if my track is not at -4 LUFS with 3 dB of dynamic range, like as loud as Skrillex, for example, once again, then you just don't compete right away.
Right.
You can make the best music. It's like, yeah, well, it's louder, it's better, it's so that's why interning here at Radium, learning about mix mastering before mastering my sound, let's say, it was so important because I mean, especially in EDM, because I make electronic music. You know, if the sub is not rambling your insides, then like the track is not good. It's
Making you want to shit yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for you know, I did classic runner internship in a studio. You get coffee, you clean the restrooms.
Oh yeah, how'd you get kicked off of that?
I brought them the wrong tacos. Because it was like, dude,
there you
I
go.
was like,
don't fuck up the tacos.
I was
in
like
LA.
fresh out of France, came out here, never ate a taco in my life, and then brought them the wrong kinds of taco. And the next day they were like, yeah, we're good, thank you. And then 2 weeks later I was out here, and just completely different experience.
See, because he thought they were asking for crepes.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like,
tacos.
Like I said, you got.
And tacos in France are like a different thing. It's like it's like a kebab. Kind of. We called them like tacos.
Oh, and then you like wrap it in a pita.
Yeah, exactly. Pita, and there's meat and
Mediterranean influence. That's a gyro, man. Come on.
That's exactly a gyro. We call it
a vajiro.
A gyro.
A gyno.
But yeah, like just the sonics, the power, everything, and that's honestly what got people interested in my sound. Is because like, wow, your sound sounds insane. It sounds big and huge and
punchy
like,
and fat,
and fat and powerful,
and defined.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's usually what the ladies say when they see my butt.
Yeah,
they're like, "Wow, that's powerful, dude. That is defined,
massive.
You must be running up hills all day,
dude. I don't know how you do that. Running up hills every single day. I did my first run yesterday. Yesterday I went for a run.
It's all mental, though. You know,
it is.
Like running is mental. And hey, dude, like. Don't get me wrong, any sort of success in music is mental too. Like you get to a point where you want to give up because you're writing lyrics and you're not good at writing lyrics, or you're programming, or you're arranging, or you're doing, you know, for you it's probably like automation, right?
Yeah,
you start
like
getting into automation.
Patch sucks.
Yeah, and you're like, God, I don't want to fix this like sawtooth thing, you know. But dude, it's all mental. It's like you have to push through the hard part, and then you get into the flow state stuff where you're like, oh man, I just did like 4 hours on this and it's sounding really cool.
That's so true. Don't be lazy.
Yeah, lazy. It's
all there.
Laziness kills everything.
Yeah, it's like when my friends, you know, there's nothing wrong with grabbing a splice sample and throwing that in your session.
Yeah, facts.
Nothing wrong. That's fine. So many people do it. But if you're lazy and you're like, okay, that's fine. Like I'm not
Yeah.
even changing the key, not changing anything to make it special and to really like
Make it
build
your
a
own.
track around and make it your own and all that. Well, that's the wrong type of lazy.
Yeah, I
it's,
agree.
It's like, come on now, you know, automate it, filter it, do whatever, just make it cool, better.
Yeah. I think a lot of the times for me, like going off that idea, there's nothing wrong with doing it however you do it, right?
Yeah,
But if nobody can tell like who did it, then you really don't have any like career or anything going on.
that's true.
And that's really the definitive part. There's like I'll use an example in the composing world because obviously I have a lot of experience in composing. You can open up stock sounds in Omnisphere. You can open up the contact, you know, damage, you know what I mean?
The whole sequences are already like pre-made.
You could totally do that, and you can score stuff with patches that are very, you know, basic and put together, which I call arranging, really. Like in EDM as well, pop music, right? Like you're just arranging samples, you know, looping it out, taking a splice sample, then looping it out, mute that, bring that in, you know. It's just arrangement of loops, right? It's so like there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's totally fine. But typically what ends up happening with people's careers after, you know, the 5, 10, 15 year mark is they're just making music for libraries and they're really not satisfied. They're like, man, I have to make music today. I have to write 5 minutes of music. I have to write
elevator music.
And they start to treat it like that. Like I have to write 10 minutes of library music today. I have to work on this film. I have to, you know. And I think like that for me, it's like, why be in music? Like at that point, why be in art?
Yep.
Like why not like just go to a job you have to go to, get your benefits, you know, get your retirement funds, get some pay raises. Because God knows that doesn't happen in the music industry when you're writing library music or you're, you know, just composing to compose. You don't get raises.
No,
The fees go down. They don't go up, you know, because nobody looks at you as like, that's that guy that does this fucking cool thing, right?
Unless
and
you're
he's
Hans
the
Zimmer.
only one that does it.
Yeah, that's true.
But Hans Zimmer, even he's the only one that does it. He makes his own thing. And you've heard people try to rip off Hans Zimmer. It doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
And you're like, what is that shit? It just sounds like Hans Zimmer.
That's
Everyone
why
will tell you that, right?
That's why I deleted Splice.
Yeah.
I deleted my account. I'm like, it's just, if you needed a pad where you used to go to Splice to get a pad, just open Omnisphere. Like, open Omnisphere. Like, it forces creativity. And I think you're right, but I'm sure, I mean, you know this, how, like, there's obviously days where you don't want to make music, but once again, it's mental. Like, you have to do it.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's a
today you don't
discipline.
want to go to work, you gotta go to work.
Totally.
Like, you just gotta do it. So you don't necessarily, like, for me, how I kind of overcame that was like, today I'm not really feeling music, so I'd allow myself to take an hour or two to chill, to watch some YouTube videos, and then I'd come up and like,
I do that
that's
so much.
sick, and then
Just
my
get
god,
inspired,
you
yeah.
open a project, it's like I gotta try it, and then boom, you're in.
Bro,
for
my
10
new
hours.
thing, like straight up, and it's funny you said that because I was watching Mix with the Masters.
Yeah,
Because I fucking love it.
love it.
I just love the
So
way it's
good.
shot. I love like how cinematic everything
so
is.
well done.
But I'm watching this one, you know, like I'll just jump on and watch like, you know, 10 minutes a day. Like I literally have it on like my goals and to-do list for the day, you know what I'm saying?
Watch your 10 minutes of Mix It with the Masters.
Straight up, yeah. And dude, or whatever it is that inspires you. And I was watching Jason Joshua, Timbaland, and Dave Pensato, and they're like sitting in south of France, right?
Yeah, the La Fabrique.
Yeah, La Fabrique. And
What
they're
a
sitting
dope
in there
studio.
and they're talking about Timbaland's career and stuff, right? And the first thing like that caught me was like Timbaland's like, yo, I find like music is all in nature.
Yeah, I saw that. You
Right?
posted that. Yeah, I remember.
And he was just like talking about how you just hear the sounds and he goes, and you know, I hear different rhythms in nature and I want to put that into the music. And that's how you kind of come up with new rhythms and stuff. Like, you know, crickets and all sorts of waves.
That's crazy.
All stuff that like kind of like has different vibrations. Super dope, right? Awesome. And then someone, he got asked a question from like the audience that were sitting there, you know? Probably some people that spent a lot of money to be there.
Yeah, it's like those weekly seminars, huh?
Crazy, like tens of thousands of dollars, right? And then this guy asked like, well, hey, how did you come up with your drum samples when you were doing this, right? And he was like, yo, records, like you see those records over there? Like, I don't, like, you have to understand, like, I don't just like sit down and start like producing, you know? He's like, I listen. Like, I went through every single record and I marked the ones that like have certain things and elements in them that I want to take. And he's like, all the drums from back in the day when he was like really crushing it, like, you know, all his like Missy Elliott, you know, what he was known for, the you know, you know, the Jay-Z shit, and like Black Album, you know, and like he's like all that stuff, like all those drums from even before then, just all from records, like just sampling and cutting and finding sounds and stuff and just listening. And dude, it's so funny because like the best producers in the world, no matter what the genre, they're like avid listeners.
Dude, hell yeah.
Kanye talks about it, you know, he's like, dude, before I make any music, I will listen to music for hours before I even start something.
Yeah. Do you do that? I do that too.
Like crazy. Like I used to never do that.
You get a vibe. You get excited. It's like, for me, it's like
a sound will just trigger something.
Yeah, like I'll play Skrillex, Virtual Riot, Rave OP, whatever. I'll play something like new that just came out, whatever. It's like, wow, that's so cool. And it's like, and what inspires me on those things, it's like, yeah, the sound and all that, but in the EDM world, it's more when they do something that I would have never expected. Like, for example, Wave Dash put out an album, and they do the classic like pop key switch. You know, it's like there's one drop that's like on key, and then it goes up and like a happier note. And I was like, that was like my whole childhood with like those pop songs on radio. Facts. That like the second drop goes higher. It's like it's like so cool to bring that in EDM. So it wasn't like, oh, what kick he uses. It wasn't that. It was like the whole vibe. Like, oh, okay, like he went there. He made that choice there. He chose to go and do something special and new. And I was like, it's awesome. Yeah. That's like the type of stuff that really inspires me.
Yeah. So like my thing I've been doing lately is just like going onto Spotify and just letting the algorithm just like take me somewhere.
That's sick.
Like new discovery, like my favorite thing to do, like go to a song I really love and then go to start radio from this song. And I just start the radio and I start going down the list. And typically I'll just like click on one and I'll like skim through it. Yeah. But then I'm like, oh, this is a vibe.
You come on something.
And you find that vibe and then you start the radio from that new song and you just keep doing that. And sometimes it's hard because you'll find like an obscure song that doesn't really have the algorithmic, you know, background.
Yeah.
So you start radio and you're like, this is all trash and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't even match up with this song. But like you'll find like you'll go down this rabbit hole. But anyway, like
that's really cool because your Spotify after that is just all like the randomest stuff, right?
Yeah, because like, you know, you could easily get caught up in just listening to the same music all the time that you always listen to. You know, like so many people do.
Yeah.
But
I do that.
But if you abuse the algorithm, right? Like go through it and be like, yo, start the radio, go to this new thing and then start the radio from that. Like
true.
All of a sudden you discover some like indie artist you would have never discovered and you're like, dude, this bass sound is incredible, right? Like, holy shit, this is so cool. I love this bass, and it inspires you to like do something. But you know, like there's also the other side of it. Like when I'm making my own records, I definitely like don't listen to anything because I just
you don't want to get sucked in a certain you don't want limits.
Yeah, but not only that, like I think when you're making music, like your own records, you're producing your own music, you want it to be like from all the experiences that encapsulate you as a person, right? And you don't want to know exactly where it's from.
Yeah.
Like you want it to be like something came out and then people tell you like, oh, that sounds like, you know, Sting. And then someone else tells you like, yo, that sounds like,
you know, this thing that just came out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That sounds like, you know, you sound like Adam Levine, you know, like you sound like Maroon 5. That sounds like this. And you have all these different things and you're like,
yeah, that's
crazy.
Sure. I listened to that like 2 years ago.
But even then,
might be a little bit in there.
Even then, I never listened to Maroon 5. I don't fucking like Maroon 5. Like I literally never like thought of that, you know? So I think like it's just people making the connections in their head of what they know about music. But for me, I'm like, no, I know I sound more like this. And like what I was doing is a part of who I am. But like all you know is because you were born in 95 is Maroon 5.
It's funny how people need to kind of relate, right?
They have
when they hear like new music, they're like,
yeah. Oh, they got to categorize it.
I never think like that. I never hear a song and be like, oh, who's that sound? I'm like, wow, that's cool. It's you know, but a lot of people, that's true. When you show music, it's like, oh, that sounds like something, and you kind of need that to relate to the song, I guess.
It's just human shit. It's like we want to categorize everything. Yeah. But yeah, man, I'd love to talk about another thing, you know, with you is like, you started kind of independently. You're working and you're like, a student, and then you're coming through and you're interning with Radium, and then, you do like 2 years of interning with us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was crazy. But you're making your music on the side and you're connecting with people and you're starting to shake hands. And, we had some cool people in the building that you started to network
Definitely.
with, which was like a huge part of, getting to where you're at now. But what I want to like really get to is like, what's it like working with like independent labels now? Because that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want you to speak a little more on that and just kind of give some insight into a little bit of like the workflow between you and your label.
Well, like for me, first label that I started working with is Basecamp. And
how did that come about?
That came about, how did that come about? I think it was Cody, the owner of Basecamp, that also worked with EDM.com, which was one of the big EDM blog. I think I sent him music through a mutual friend or something, and he liked it, and he was about to put Basecamp like public because he was working on it for a while, but it wasn't really like made or finished. So he announced it. It was like, I'm opening label Basecamp, because Basecamp is the festival that has been running in Tahoe for 10 years now.
Gotcha.
So he had me on the virtual festival play a set there. And then after that, showed him some music, and then he signed the Dreams EP.
Nice. So the Dreams EP was the one you did with Courtney?
With Courtney Drum, yeah, exactly. And then...
Vocalist.
Yep. The process was... I thought, like, the first thing that came into my mind was, like, do I want a label? Because everyone trashes label at all times.
Yeah.
For me, it was more like... My goal is not to make a quick buck right now. Like, I don't care if you take 100% of my master recording. Like, I'm like... Take it and just help me get exposure, introduce me to your relationships, and get my music, and which it worked super well. Like the first track that I put out like had not like crazy numbers, but it had numbers. It was super cool. It was a real start, and it wasn't me, because I put out a track before I actually made the Esper project. And it just didn't work because I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know how to release on Spotify, playlist, whatever, everything that goes into it. So label here was really useful for me to have their expertise, their playlisting, all that stuff. Yeah, it was really easier than I thought, but also because Basecamp is a very small label, so I really had like a direct contact. I'd call him like, "Yo, do we want to do this?" He was like, "Yeah, why not? Let's do that." It was really. And then I released on Monstercat, which was different because it's a way bigger label, so it takes longer. That's also part of working with labels, that you need to be way more organized. You need to have like your next 4 months planned out, because you kind of release regarding their schedule and not really yours. Like when can
open
they
slots,
put it out?
Open times to promote it.
But I mean, just once again, great experience with Monstercat. They're insane at what they do. They're super efficient, super clean. They got great playlisting, great reach out. I think the big thing too is that they have other artists that they can get to support your music. So in EDM, that's a huge thing. Like if you have
massive
artists playing your tracks at a show, it's like, oh yeah, you get a little clip of it. It's like, oh, thanks whoever for playing my track. And it's
super dope.
It's cool. It adds like weight to your song. It's like, oh, if he plays it, then that's cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the big exchange, I feel like, with an independent label.
Yeah.
And even major labels. I mean, come on. But independent labels on a different level, because there's kind of tiers to everything, right?
Yeah.
Like you're talking about your first one being under Basecamp, and then Monstercat, right? I've released under Sony, right?
Completely different, huh?
It's all different, right? So, but I think those tiers, they're exactly what they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because what people don't understand, and this is a really good point, as you mentioned that, it kind of like sparked these different things in my head. But it's like when you go to Basecamp, right? You're like here, and this is how fast it is, and this is how fluid it is. But then it's also, this is how much reach we got.
Yeah.
And this is how much budget we got. And this is how much exposure we got. And this is how much, et cetera. And then you get to Monstercat, and you're going, okay, this is going to be a little bit longer of a process, and you know, you got to get all your ducks in a row and like be patient with us. A lot more people.
So more people involved, so it takes longer.
A lot more talent involved.
Yeah.
A lot
Money.
more people, that are ahead of you, that are much more prioritized. But we're still going to give you a taste of our pool of network, which is much bigger than Bandcamp, or what was that? Basecamp.
Yeah.
Right. So then you're in that level. When you get to the Sony level, the UMG level, the Universal Warner level, it's exactly that. But the problem is if you go there too fast, or the project's not that important to them, you're not,
if you're not making them money,
you're not Justin Bieber, right?
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is they're going to splash you into, like for Sony, they have playlists that are under Filter, right? FILTR, right? That's an actual label, kind of sub-label, like playlisting that is owned by Sony, right? And then they have PlayStation, right? And they have all these other brands. And like when we released Cannon Busters soundtrack under Sony, that's where they put us. They threw us into these playlists that were like getting hundreds of thousands of streams from it. And they're promoting those playlists. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like, they're putting their marketing dollars not into you, because you're not Justin Bieber.
No.
Right?
They're putting you in their system, and they're promoting their system.
And they're promoting their whole system, their playlists. And then what ends up happening is you'll look at your phone, you'll look at your Spotify for artists, right? And all of a sudden you'll be like, there's 500 people listening to my music right now. What is happening, right? And you're like, this is crazy. And what you don't realize is like, well, yeah, they're just pushing ad budget to shoot it to the playlist.
Absolutely.
So people are going to the playlist in flocks. And you're talking about thousands of dollars a day in spend. And they'll just do that, and they'll keep juicing it. And I didn't realize like how that worked until I actually experienced it. But if you really look at it and you break it down to like independent label, bigger independents, major labels, publishers, whatever, that's exactly how it works. It's like you're going to be at the bottom of the barrel at the top of the label when you're not ready, but you're also going to get a ton of streams, and you're going to get a ton of other things.
Absolutely.
Right? But then again, if you got an advance, then you got to recoup that, If you got this other stuff, then you may never actually make money, and they know that.
Yeah.
The major labels do. And that's why you're just kind of thrown into the system.
That's why I think there's a balance to it. I think it's great for our starting artist to go 2 years with a major if you can, or any labels. Just make sure you have an option to get out.
Right.
And go give all your music, go give up all your money for 2 years to use their exposure, use their connection, build your brand, because that's the thing too. I think being with the label helped me out a lot with consistency. Yeah. And it helped me out a lot in my head.
You got a little more management, a little more discipline.
There's people involved that call us like, yo, like,
hey, how's that track coming?
We're still good for Thursday? Yeah, how's that track coming? Is the 12th a good deadline? So you're like, okay, the 12th, I'm going to get that done by the 12th. And really like organizes your mindset. It's that you're not just, a producer in a bedroom. It creates a purpose in a way. It's like, okay, like, well, the label wants this. Like, I'm going to go there. I'm gonna like finish this track so that they can send it in the distro for 2 weeks, and they can pitch it to editorials, blah blah. Yeah. So it just creates a team. It creates weight to it. So it's important. I think it's really like, labels are not evil. Like Basecamp are awesome because, like you said, super small, like 2 people involved. Yeah. It goes fast. The guys were interested in it. They were super pro about it. So yeah. It's not all bad. It's not all good.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, like, that you made. It's like a lot of artists or producers just want to focus on making the music, but sometimes they won't even make the music if like they're not on a schedule. Yeah. Like, who's expecting it, right?
No one.
Yeah.
No one's out here waiting for you. That's what you told me one day on like very early in the internship.
Oh yeah, I told you that.
You're like, bro, Max, no one's out here waiting for you. No one gives a fuck. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I'm like, when are you gonna release music? You're like,
so true. Yeah.
You're like, man, it's just not perfect. Well, no one cares. Yeah. Like, literally, no one's waiting on Max or Esper to fucking drop a record. And and unfortunately, you have to build that demand. And if you're doing it completely independent, the total independent route, I think this is where people get skewed, right? Like, they want the label. They want the big label, and they want the big advance, right? But they also want to like keep their masters, and they also want to like do it all on their own, right? And the trade-offs are equal between both. Like you can go with the big label, you can get the advance, and you can get dripped into their system and still go nowhere because you didn't actually leverage anything, right? And the leverage comes in where you get into the studio, you meet the people, you make the records, you shake hands, you get a shout out. You get a shout out from your favorite DJ, producer, whatever. And you see if you can go play an opening set for them, or you see if you can connect with them
Absolutely,
deeper,
yeah.
right? You see if you can connect with them and like be friends with them because maybe they're cool anyway and you just want to be friends with them. But secondly, like you might have an opportunity there that you would have never been open to, or that door would have never been open to you doing it on your own, right? And that's kind of like the trade-off. You're giving up your master for that.
Yeah.
But then on the independent side, you're giving up your money out of your pocket. Right? Like you really want to push your own record and release your own thing. Like you're paying for artwork, you're paying for the promo, the Facebook ads, you're paying for the photo shoot, you're paying for
A lot goes into it, yeah.
everything. But then you also have to build the hype. Like the label's not going to just drip you into the system. So with doing it independent completely, it's all about like, how do I find the people that I can pay, the right people, not the, hey dude, give me $100.
I do 3D.
Yeah, or give me $100, I'll put you on my playlist. You know, that's all botted and it's not even real. Like nobody pays for playlist. Like they have to understand that. Like people have to really get that through their head. There's certain companies like
Submit Hub.
there's Submit Hub and there's Playlist Push and
There's a few ones that are really cool.
those are legit, but that's because they're actually just, you're paying them to submit it.
Submit, exactly. You're not paying to get in the playlist. You're paying
Like
to
my
be
favorite
"Here's
is when
my
people
track."
hit you up like, oh dude, well, 25,000 to 50,000 streams is about $300. You're like, nobody can put that on you. Like anybody doing that is botted. They're fucking, running laptops.
Can't really quantize that.
They're running like a farm of like TVs where they're just streaming a
Just
song on
stream
it.
the song.
No, straight up.
It's so true. Yeah, no.
That's exactly what a lot of
crazy.
these guys are doing. And you could tell because you go to your Spotify for artists and you see other is just jacked up. And then you ask the guys like, well, what happened? Why is my other, like, what is that? And they're like, oh, don't worry. That's just like people playing off laptops and TVs. And you're like,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So you're only promoting to TVs and laptops? Like it makes no sense, right? So it's all fucked up. But also it skews all your information, which is like,
Gets your data.
it's the biggest problem, right? So not
Gotta make
understanding all of that and being independent and then blowing $5,000 on that and doing it all wrong is actually going against you and you're spending your money. So people don't understand like the trade-off, you give up your masters, but dude, like somebody's actually doing
legit,
something that they've proven over
You
time.
get experience. You get like so much.
You can learn from it like
Absolutely.
crazy. And I always tell people that like with mixing and mastering and production, like pay people to mix, master, and produce for you. Like if you're not good at it or you don't understand it, because
It doesn't compete.
even just like paying someone to mix your stuff, you're going to learn. You're going to learn like where you're really at.
What's the goal? Yeah.
Like
Where do
where
I
are
need
you
to go?
really at as an artist? Even after all the melodyning, tuning, professional mixing, getting all your sonics right, you're still got shit songs. Like you have to know that, right?
And you got to learn it. Like me learning it for 4 years, 3 years with you, still learning it every day. Every master I make is better than the last one.
Yeah.
It added so much value over the years to anyone I meet. Like, I mean, I go in studio with producers. They're like, yo, like right away it sounds good. It sounds fat. So they get excited. You go to a label, your shit's just better. I had a friend who wanted to submit on a label and label loved this track. It was like, okay, we want this track. We want to release it, blah, blah. Waited for 2 months and then he ended up not getting picked because it was him or another guy and the other guy was louder.
That's crazy.
And so he didn't get it. Because
That
the
sucks.
label didn't want to spend time like going through mastering, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The 2 tracks were both amazing, but
Right.
one was just 10% higher master and
Jeez.
he got the release.
That sucks.
And so that's why it's so
That's
important.
pretty genre specific though too.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
In
Because
your world, it's got to
yeah.
be.
But in my world, it's got to be because
Yeah.
if your kick doesn't carry the 808 that carries the big synth and everything, it's just, it's not, the track is that.
Yeah.
Like the dynamics.
That is the track,
It
yeah.
is the track. Like,
Yeah,
how
electronic
hard does
music.
it go? How hard
Mhm.
it bangs? Like,
Yeah, does it make you want to fucking rip your face off?
exactly.
Yeah.
Break your neck.
Yeah.
Break your fucking neck.
Is that what you think? Like,
I think so.
you think probably like the number one like way to figure out if your track is dope is if people want to just rip their dick off.
I don't know about their dick, but yeah.
Well, hey, think about it.
Man, I mean, yeah.
Probably.
My track, I want people to cry a little bit and then rip their dick off.
Yeah. And if there's if in the drop they don't want to rip their dick off, it's
something wrong.
trash, dude.
Yeah, something
yeah,
wrong.
you got to limit it harder.
That's true though. Yeah. It's people's first instinct. Just
That's
like,
right. I want to
The
rip my
bass
dick
face.
off, bro.
The bass face.
Ah!
When I produce, I'm like bass face all day in studio.
Bass face. Oh, this is sick. Yeah, it's the same thing with like, trap records and all that. But dude, I think a lot of this is like, it's also subjective, right? It's like what you're really doing is you're trying to find what you do best, and you're trying to fall in love with your sound.
Mm-hmm.
And when you play something, you want to be able to, feel like ripping your own dick off, basically, and melt your own face. You know what I'm saying? Like you really like want to be like, oh my God, give yourself goosebumps when you hear what you've done, and you believe in it. And then you show someone else and they're like equally excited or even more excited. That's kind of like, for me, that's all right, I think I got something here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But otherwise, I feel like you got to go back to the drawing board.
And that takes time. I'm sure now you make a track, like, it's really important for an artist to learn when an idea is not worth like finishing. It's like, okay, like
facts.
well, I started this, it's sick, but like, it's whatever. The vibe's
song,
not here.
this
Let's
is
just
not even a good song.
next. Yeah, whatever.
And they
Boom,
go and like work on the kick for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's important to know when to be like, whatever.
Yeah.
Not this one. But
Facts. But that's a big portion of it. Yeah, knowing what's not good. It's the same thing in entrepreneurship and building businesses and all that. It's like you have to know which things you shouldn't go after.
Mm-hmm.
Like which clients you really should just be like, I don't want to work with that guy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, you could pay me a bunch of money, but like
Not worth it.
like every time I work on your records, I'm going to be upset. And it's going to be hard for me to work on your records. I'm going to keep putting them off,
Yep.
I don't want to work on
Breaks
that.
the workflow. It's
Yeah,
just,
because you're just not feeling it. You're not excited about it. So there's a big part there. But yeah, man, I think like the last thing, that I just want to like ask you is like, what's next? Like you have, like, are you trying to go and just dominate the mid-size label?
Absolutely dominate.
Like the mid-size label, or are you trying to go like a major? Are you trying to be?
I think. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I'm not aiming for Sony right now. I'm aiming for making the dopest music that I can make. Music that's like represents me, that I genuinely like.
Right.
That's a big thing. And then building a catalog, and then just I'm gonna blast this to all the labels that I like and respect. Subsidia, Monster Cat, so many like different record label, and try to sign.
So do you have like a list of labels that
Yeah. I have lists of label, I have lists of singers I want to work with.
You have targets.
Collabs, targets. I have my 6-month goal, I have my year goal. I know that in 6 months I want to hit 100 monthly listeners, 100K monthly listeners.
Nice.
I know that in a year I want to do this. I have my release planned out.
Yeah.
This was a big step for me after the first EP release, is to like the artist mindset. I mean, it's like you, like Radio Media definitely got me on that path where, you can't just make music and see what's out. Like you have a plan. Like I made a whole sheets with like a Google Doc with all my tracks. What's their status? Are they done? Is it mixed? Is it mastered? Does it have
a guest appearance from Freddie?
What's up, Freddie?
Freddie.
Does it have vocals on it? Is it? Do I want to put it on a label, etc., etc.?
Yeah,
so get your goals. Get your future planned out.
It's funny because I would say like 75% of artists and producers out there right now, they don't have even just like a release plan.
Hey, that's true.
Like just
and it's so
written
important.
down,
just like for mental purposes. Because how can you like I can't work every day on music not knowing where it's going.
Yeah.
So
like I'm just gonna release, hopefully this gets somewhere.
Maybe also like if you want to start sending music to labels and all that, not even major, but like it takes time. For like I sent many tracks and labels were like, it's not our vibes right now.
Yeah, happens so often.
Yeah, it's completely normal. It's like, it's not what we're releasing right now, not our vibe, or not good enough, or
like I think that's a good point too. Like you have to normalize declines.
Declines,
You
yeah.
have to normalize the fact that like most people are going to say no.
Yeah.
Like Submit Hub is a great way, I think. Like there's a lot of different things you can get used to being told no on, you know?
That's
like
true.
Submit Hub or chasing placements, you know, like just like chasing placements, they won't even tell you no. Like
Yeah, no answer means no.
yeah, just fuck off, yeah. But like most of the time, like I think people are afraid of because they take music so personally. Like, oh, if they don't like it, then I suck.
Yeah.
But that's just not the truth. It's just you're closer now to getting to something that may be releasable or maybe something that you want to invest in
Absolutely.
and push forward.
And it doesn't mean your track is shitty. It means like they have 3 artists that sent better tracks yesterday.
Yeah, that are all in the
So
same
yours
vibe.
today
Yeah.
is like, so yours today is not the vibe. Maybe next month they'll need that, or it's like, don't romanticize music. It's once it's personal. If you like your tracks, then in my opinion, that's kind of how I go about it. I'm gonna make music that I truly, truly like, and then I truly like. God, this is so good.
Same.
And then I'll see, and then I'll like go get it. Or another way that I got onto, for example, Monster Cat is collab with a bigger artist. I collab with Pixel Terror.
There you go.
And they're signed on there.
That's perfect.
So I didn't go on Monster Cat by myself. Because
Right.
They would have said no.
Yeah.
And I sent them music before this, and not our vibes.
Yeah.
But because I went through with the other artist, Pixel Terror, they were like, okay, like that's fire.
So yeah, there's a huge gap between the big record labels and the independent labels and the hey, I'm doing it all on my own, bro. But it's cool to see you finally kind of getting your way and finding your way in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I think what you've done really well, and the reason I even wanted to bring you on the podcast was to talk about some of that stuff of, how you've built your network and your connections and gotten from interning and getting out of audio school to interning to like releasing your own records to getting on a independent label to then a little bit of a bigger label with some releases and now just kind of working your way up, like that was fascinating to me because a lot of people don't know what they really want to do in music or sound, especially when they get like a sound arts degree or something.
Yeah, true.
So it's like, oh, now what? Should I go do live sound at the Marriott? You know what I mean? It's just
Which
like,
is not
who's
bad.
who's
why
gonna
not?
pay
But,
me?
yeah.
Who's gonna pay me? How does this work? Like, how do I get a paycheck for now knowing how to do sound and produce? You know what I mean?
Well, coming out of the school definitely helped because I did I did 3 years of audio production. So I learned post-production, movie, live sound, boom operator,
Yeah,
Foley.
you get the full
everything. So I came out of school. I did a mix for a friend's movie.
Nice.
I'm doing freelance mix mastering, Foley, recording, some sync with you.
Nice. Yeah.
And by doing all these things, you meet people that you wouldn't necessarily meet if you don't do all these things.
Yeah, facts.
And if you don't, kind of go out of your comfort zone and get your hands dirty with different things. And that got me different connections, and that got me to meet different friends that just comes back to my main music thing. So
Yeah, I think that's an overlooked thing that a lot of people don't get. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, I want to make beats though. And you're like, yeah, but dude, you can go work
do
on a
anything.
film set and like be the boom operator and meet someone that's going to plug you with a friend of
Absolutely.
theirs that could get you
Yeah.
making beats. You know what
That's
I mean?
true. That's so true.
Yeah, and
never
I
know.
realized that really heavy when I first started my career. It's like, dude, I met people like working at restaurants, like met rappers and met artists and met people that plugged me with other people that plugged me with other people that brought me to go to school in the Bay Area and get a degree in sound, get my
And then
bachelor's.
that brought you in LA.
Which brought me to LA,
Exactly.
which got me an internship. The same thing, for you. It's like, it's all just, you don't know what the next door might be. And it's why, this whole podcast, like why it's so important. Like you were an intern of mine, right? Now you're doing your own thing. Like,
And still learning.
so like I have to make sure I return, the favors. Like now you're on the podcast. Like you used to
True, full
actually
circle.
record these
I
podcasts.
love this. Yeah.
You used to set up
Behind
the mics.
camera. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it's really important that we celebrate each other and where we've come with our music because
Absolutely.
yeah, because like for me, it's like, how good does it feel to like try to teach and mentor someone and then them just sit on the couch and be like, well, fuck you. It
That's
feels
true.
way better when you can be like, yo, you got some shit done. Now I can bring you on a podcast.
Hell yeah. And
You know
for
what I mean?
me, like being here is like, it's sick. It's just, it's a very pure form of success in a way. Just
Yeah.
like personal, like gratitude, like like that's so great because I always looked up to you. You know, like when I
Thank
arrived
you.
in Radium, didn't know shit, and I mean, you guys know Bradley, fucking
but it's-
beast at everything. And the fact that now I'm able to sit here and have a conversation with you where I have something to say, whereas I didn't before. Before it was just like wow, this guy just knows so much more than me, which you still do.
But
And
you
that's
know,
why I
like
love to be
that's
here.
that's the whole thing, man. Like it's knowing what you know, but it's like really knowing what you don't know.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty I don't know.
Keep learning. Every
Yeah.
day's a grind. Just go get it every day. That's also the thing. Like at first, you're obviously lost. Like my friends tell me that all the time. But how do you meet people?
Yeah.
You don't create. I mean, you can create opportunities to go meet. I sometimes go to artist meet and greet
Right.
or to some labels organize little things. at
Art
studios.
openings, things
Yeah,
like
like
that,
stuff
yeah.
like this. But you never know. You don't create. You just like the only way to meet people is to just have this mindset of like every day you do this. So if you always have that same direction, like I'm gonna go there. Well, when any opportunity presents itself, boom, you're going and you
Yeah.
meet the people.
Your
Like,
focus changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like if you're like shopping for cars and you're like, I'm gonna get the red Mercedes S-Class, you know, this year. Then all of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere. You know, it's like your focus. It's so important in the music business, just because it's so hard. I mean, it really is. And like, you know, everybody in this room knows that because not one person in this room has ever made, you know, $1 million off music. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Like, I mean, I have.
Not
but
me.
but you know, not in a year.
And over time.
Yeah, you know what I'm
absolutely.
saying? So it's a really like it's a really humbling experience with this business because a lot of people are out there faking it. You know, they're putting shit on credit cards. They're putting all their money up front. They're spending the advances. They're not paying taxes on it. They're going to get fucked later. They won't have longevity in their career. And, you know, I don't blame those people. I'm like, yeah, okay, you just got to learn some shit, right? But like, it's more important to not stunt before you actually have the skills.
Thing, yeah.
You
And
know,
that's why I didn't
gotta show
release
the
too
proof.
much
Yeah,
before the base camp stuff.
it's hard.
Because I wasn't there yet, and you know, you're in no rush. No one's, like we said earlier, no one's out here waiting for you. So it's not like I need to put music out. It's like
Yeah.
no, like perfect your sound, perfect the craft,
Yeah.
be patient, and then it is very hard, but at the same time, it's pretty easy
Yeah,
in a way that like when you start finding what's the next step, it's like the path gets clearer and
Yeah.
clearer, and you start to like see like the end of the tunnel. It's like okay, like that's cool. Like I did the 3 years of grinding, I did all this shit. Now it's like I keep going. So it's the consistency is hard to do, but once you like, I mean, in my opinion, once you start where you're going, then you just go. And especially if you fucking love doing it, like us. I mean, I don't know.
facts.
It's never annoying.
Well, hey man, it's a pleasure to have you back, dude. Like it's been
I'm
too
honored.
long.
I'm honored.
It's been too
Yeah.
long. You gotta
It's
come
true.
through, play me some jams. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, quarantine was happening. Now we're good.
I know.
Getting
Well,
that final vax and then
yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna put a J&J in my arm, bro.
a J&J, really?
Yeah.
The Johnson & Johnson?
Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. It's one shot, dude.
I don't discriminate.
No.
I don't
No,
discriminate.
man, I ain't
vax.
doing J&J.
Exactly.
That shit's crazy.
Nah.
People got blood clots.
I'm really whatever. I think
See, I got a girlfriend, fiance, soon to be wife next week, huh? That's in the ICU as a nurse. So I got the inside scoop on what the J&J does.
okay.
Yeah. So, you know, it's all about, you know, you gotta know the inside game, bro.
See, relationships.
See, it's all about relationships.
Now I know where to go.
Dude, last thing I want to say, and hopefully this is poignant to everybody listening because it's literally like the one thing that I go by, maybe for the last 5 years of my career and life, is that you have to like really understand what you're bad at and fill the void.
Yeah. And don't be a dick.
That's it. Just like fill the void. Like if you don't think you want to spend the next 5 years becoming a mixing engineer, fill the void. Find a mixing engineer. Pay them.
True.
I didn't want to become a graphic design artist and spend
Hell
time
no.
making logos and doing video edits. So
Pay someone dope to do it.
I filled the void with Will, you know, like it's, you have to really figure out, like you're saying, it just plays off that idea. You have to stay focused on what you're trying to do. And as a business owner, you have to understand what the business needs, and
Absolutely.
it needs oxygen.
Yeah.
It needs cash. It needs to be fed all the time with new content and all
Needs
that stuff.
passion.
Yep. But you can never have one thing fall off that's not going to allow you to keep that stream going.
Absolutely.
You know, if we can't deliver this podcast, we can't deliver the next piece of content, we can't deliver the next mix, we can't deliver the next production to our clients, then our stream ends, you know.
And you lose momentum, you lose everything.
You're done.
And when you get an artwork designer, like, this dude's been doing this as much as you have been doing music.
Obsessed.
Like, he's obsessed with it. He has all the new techniques. He's able to bring something to the table that you didn't even think of. It's like, you show him something, it's like, yeah, we could do this, when you didn't even think about it.
Facts.
So it's fine. Yeah.
And hey, we got a remix coming out. The Esper official remix.
Yeah, the Heartless remix.
Of Heartless, David Nolf.
I'm excited.
Radium Records, Esper. I'm really excited about it too, man. I think it's super dope. Can't wait for people to hear it. They're going to finally get a little taste of your sonics.
Yep.
You know, a little splash of your little sizzle sauce.
Of my bass.
Your bass heavy splashes. Your cute little synths. No.
Love it. My serum patches.
So yeah, serum patches everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, so look out for that. That's coming out. What do we got for that date?
Probably mid-May.
Mid-May. Yep. So that's coming
Around
out.
the
So
14th.
tap in. You get to hear this Esper sound behind the interview. He can actually show you what he can really do, and you guys can be the judge of whether he should be on this podcast or not.
Yeah.
You got to earn your place, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.